All right, folks, it's official. The long-anticipated debate between the two most prominent governors in the United States, Republican Ron DeSantis and Democrat Gavin Newsom, is officially scheduled for November 30th to be moderated by none other than Sean Hannity of the Fox Propaganda Network. But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. Maybe check out my Patreon. I'd appreciate the support. All right, folks, we're going to play some clips here, but just as a refresher, this is something that we've discussed in a few previous videos. Gavin Newsom, the Democratic governor of California, and Ron DeSantis, the Republican governor of Florida, have been seen as rivals and peers by many people in the commentary space, many people who are interested in politics. They're relatively young. They are, or in the case of Ron DeSantis, were once seen as the heir apparents of the two major political parties. And, California is the biggest, blue state in the country. Florida is one of the most prominent red states in the country alongside Texas. And Gavin Newsom has been chasing Ron DeSantis and Republican Governor Greg Abbott of Texas. Rhetorically and in terms of messaging and propaganda, he's been pursuing them. Gavin Newsom is of the opinion that the Democratic Party too often plays defensively to their detriment and to the detriment of their constituents. And so he's been wanting to take the fight to Republicans, and he's done a very admirable job in doing so. And yet, Ron DeSantis has done everything in his power to avoid a direct verbal confrontation or debate with Gavin Newsom, probably because, as most of us know, he will lose. And yet, Newsom has, publicly challenged DeSantis to debate. And Sean Hannity, of all people, the Fox propagandist, he's been calling on DeSantis to debate Newsom and has offered to moderate the debate. Hannity had a disastrous hour and a half long interview with Gavin Newsom a few months ago in which he was rightly impressed with Newsom's ability to debate. And so again, he pitched the idea. He's like, listen, let's debate. I'll moderate the debate. I'll moderate it fairly, and you take on DeSantis. And Newsom was like, great, absolutely. And for months, apparently they'd been negotiating behind the scenes, and nothing came of it until now. They finally agreed on a November 30th debate. It will be televised. The debate will take place in Georgia. Now, my understanding is, according to this Axios report, it's being pitched as a red state versus blue state debate. I don't know if that means that's the topic or if it's just seen that way because, again, Newsom represents a blue state, DeSantis represents a red state. Hannity proposed the debate to Newsom during an interview, as we discussed. I'm looking forward to providing viewers with an informative debate about the everyday issues and governing philosophies that impact the lives of every American. Now, I've never seen Sean Hannity moderate a debate. I'm not entirely sure how fair he'll be, but I actually wouldn't be surprised because, again, his interview with Governor Newsom was disastrous, but it was mostly because Newsom had the facts on his side, whereas Hannity, of course, being a Republican, doesn't have the facts on his side. But otherwise, he treated Governor Newsom relatively fairly. So I'm actually pretty confident that the debate will not be unfairly moderated. Could be wrong about that. Now, with that in mind, I want to play a couple of clips here. This is Newsom in an interview with Chris Cuomo. We're going to play a couple of clips of this, as a matter of fact, discussing the debate a few days before it was officially scheduled.
You think there's any chance Governor DeSantis wants to debate with somebody who's not running for president?
Remarkable to me that he does, or at least has asserted that he does on multiple occasions, which is another reason he...
And do you mean it? Would you do it?
It's another reason he shouldn't be president. He's so easy to distract.
Are you just trying to distract him, or would you debate him?
I'm all in. No, that would be a wonderful 90-minute distraction. I look forward to that engagement.
But there's no date. This is just...
It was, we had a date in November, and then they just moved their Republican primary up. So I forgive him if that date doesn't work out. But I'm all in and ready to go.
Hey, thank you.
So, yeah, now Newsom is obviously doing this for a purpose, right? Newsom's not running for the presidency. Ron DeSantis is. No doubt Newsom understands that this is an opportunity to basically just destroy with facts and logic Ron DeSantis. And he's right to take the shot. Again, this is the mindset of so many prominent conservatives and Republicans. It's good that Governor Newsom is appropriating it for the benefit of the left and for the Democratic Party. We need more people to do that. Now, I want to play another clip here, but this time it's of Meatball Ron himself. And what's interesting about this is, again, he's discussing this impending debate, but I want you to take note of the language that he uses. Again, this is a guy who's running for the presidency, somebody who is no longer or would no longer be merely the governor of a predominantly red state, but somebody who is supposed to be the chief representative and chief executive of a nation with 50 states, including blue states. With that in mind, Note his language.
I think it's an important debate for the country, not like saying who's better, Florida, California, because that debate is over because people have voted with their feet. They've left California and come to Florida, not the other way around. He has lost massive amounts of population. No governor in California history has ever witnessed population loss at all on net, and he's had it in because of the policies. He's driving people away. But what's the future for the country? The future for the country, for what the left would want to do, is just double down on the California policies. And so I think it would be an important debate. I think he's definitely angling for it. I don't think Biden is going to step down willingly. I think it's harder to dislodge somebody who's an incumbent president than people assume it would be. But I think the Democrat establishment really, really is concerned, particularly, if they have to run against somebody like me. I think that their view on Trump is that he will help energize their base to come out in ways that maybe some other Republicans won't.
So their meatball Ron DeSanctimonious, is peddling the conspiracy theory that this is actually, some sort of elaborate ploy by by Governor Newsom to usurp President Biden. I don't buy it for a second. But the thing I wanted you to note was the language that he used. DeSantis begins his remarks with, it's not about who's better, California or Florida. And then he goes on to say that initially I was thinking, oh, that's good. That's good that you're not pitching this as an idea of one state being better than the other, especially because you're trying to take the position of the nation's chief executive where you're supposed to serve California and Florida. So it's good that you don't think of who's better and worse. But then he actually goes on to say, no, I do think of who's better and who worse, and it's just that the debate has already been won because Florida is better than California. And we've discussed this in previous videos, but this is how the Republican Party is allowed to talk about 50 to 60% of the country. Ron DeSantis, and he's not alone, Donald Trump says stuff like this all the time. Republican politicians are allowed to, with impunity, insult the majority, half or a majority of the country in terms of the population, and basically say New York sucks, California sucks, etc. and so forth. Imagine if President Biden or a prominent Democrat or even Governor Newsom himself were to say things like, my state is better than your state. Not criticizing policy, but just California as a whole, policy, people, whatever, we're better than you. Imagine the backlash that would ensue, not just from right-wing media. Right-wing media, of course, would throw a tantrum, but even mainstream media, like I could see Jake Tapper and Anderson Cooper and, a New York Times op-ed saying, wow, that's really divisive language coming from a Democrat. But it's okay for Republicans to speak in that divisive language, to say that they're better than Democrats and Democrat states. It's very strange. If they want to criticize the policy, by all means, there's room to do that. We do it all the time on this channel. And really, if we want to get really crass, again, really crude, really blunt, the fact of the matter is that the poorest, least educated, least healthy, most federally dependent states in this country are predominantly Republican and led by Republicans. So do you really want to talk about who's better? But again, just note the double standard. That's something that really has to change in this country. And I want to conclude finally by playing this clip from Governor Newsom here, just to kind of show off his mastery of the facts and to kind of forecast what meatball Ron DeSanctimonious is going to have to face on November 30th.
But he did it.
Yeah.
He went out.
Yeah.
You're right. You need a team, but you need Jordan also. And the team's got to be there. But when the time matters, Jordan has the ball in his hands. You got to have a Jordan.
I get it, but I think maybe.
And to clarify, they're not talking basketball. It's a metaphor. They're talking about the Democratic Party and President Biden, who in this case is Michael Jordan.
On the court, I think we have Jordan. You're talking about in the press room. That's a different conversation. I'm for the performance on the court. And this guy is producing those results every single day with all that heat coming in, all that, that just the smash mouth surround sound anger industry that's been built around this guy 24/7, defining the terms of opposition 24/7, disciplined and focused. He's producing these results every single night, despite all that. So I'm about performance. I'm about outcomes. I think what's happened in our politics, and it's shaping public opinion. So I acknowledge that. I get the polling is a performative quality, and we had 4 years of that. It didn't go so well. We lost 2.9 million jobs. Deficit as a percentage of GDP went up 11.5% under Trump. Every year, the deficit went up under Trump. We lost more jobs. He lost as many jobs as Herbert Hoover. There's no president. The last 3 Republican presidents have one thing in common: recessions. Since 1989, I mean, people forget this. I can't even believe we're having a debate about the economy and jobs. Since 1989 and the end of the Cold War, there's been 49 million American jobs created, 47 million of them created in Democratic administrations. I mean, it's not even an interesting debate for me, and it shouldn't be for the country, but we got to, I agree, sell the facts and acknowledge the feelings.
A debate can.
So that discussion with between Governor Newsom and Chris Cuomo is really good. I encourage you to check it out at length. But yeah, this is what Ron DeSantis is going to be facing. I also encourage you to check out Newsom's discussion with Sean Hannity a couple of months ago. We covered it on this channel. This man has an encyclopedic knowledge of the facts at his disposal. He's rhetorically effective and he's aggressive. So Meatball Ron, who is struggling in the polls right now, whose once competitive situation, his competitive context with Donald Trump in the Republican primary is slipping. He is struggling badly. I don't expect him to do well in this debate. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. Anyway, regardless, in a month's time, approximately, we will see the next generation, so to speak, of Republican leaders take each other on. And I don't know about you, but I'm hyped.